All right, Rob, huge news today in the world of golf. When we open up with golf, you know it's huge news. The PGA Tour, which was so outspoken and self-righteous about the LIV Golf Tour and, oh, those Saudis are 9/11 and, oh, how in the world could any players go to play for them and blah, 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 blah. That PGA Tour has now unified with LIV Golf as well as the DP World Tour, all under one umbrella. And Rob, the PGA Commissioner, Jay Monahan, who even himself, Rob, he said, I know a lot of people are going to say I'm a hypocrite. Yeah, we are. But anyway, here's Jay talking about the merger.
I talked to players. I've talked at a player meeting, and I've talked to a number of players individually for a long period of time. And I think you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that there are significant implications. And as it relates to the families of 9/11, I have two families that are close to me that lost loved ones. And so my heart goes out to them. And I would ask, any player that has left or any player that would ever consider leaving, have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour?
Okay, that was a year ago.
That was what he said a year ago, Chris.
That's what he said a year ago. Do we have him today, Rob G? We don't have him today, but he did. I've seen some of the clips. Here's a quick quote, Rob. I'll just read it. There's been a lot of tension. This is from that same Jay Monahan who you just heard. There's been a lot of tension in our sport over the last couple of years. What we're talking about today is coming together to unify the game of golf and to do so under one umbrella. We've recognized that together we can have a far greater impact on this game than we can working apart. The game of golf is better for what we've done here today. Rob?
Chris, he's a hypocrite. The worst kind of hypocrite, Chris. And you just heard the soundbite. Putting out the 9/11. How dare you go to LIV Golf and disgrace the country? And now the Saudis had something to do with all the people killed in 9/11. You can couch it now, Chris, and act like you didn't say it. You're taking blood money. You're washing their reputation.
What he was saying.
That's exactly what he was saying.
That's what people said. It was sports washing was the term they used. Go ahead.
Where you take money and they're going to make themselves in a better light, right? Because they're affiliated with something that you love, Chris, like golf.
Yep.
And how dare Monahan? Do you have a check for $800 million for Tiger Woods? Because that's what he turned down, Chris, not to go to LIV Golf. Because they made it. It was us against them.
$800 million. In one fell swoop, you almost become a billionaire.
Exactly.
One fell swoop. Tiger ain't even any good anymore.
What, right? And they offered him, Chris, $800 million, and it was like, are you going to be with us, the good old U.S. of A., or are you going to be with the Saudis who killed our people in 9/11? That was what the implication was. And now, you mean to tell me not only did you get into bed with the Saudis and their money, you're having a baby with them. Is that what it is?
No, that's a good analogy.
Chris, that's what it is. And the new baby, guess who's going to run the PGA LIV Golf together with a new name? The Saudis are going to run it, Chris.
Yep.
Because they got the most money. Really? All that patriotism and all that flag waving all went for naught. It didn't mean a damn thing. You know what Bob meant the most? Who had the most money? And that's what it came down to. If this deal wasn't good enough, Chris, for players to take the most money a year ago or whatever it was, why is it good now?
Right. He talked a lot about, I worked off the information we had. Now we got new information. You know what you got? You got a huge check from the Public Investment Fund. That's Saudi Arabia's fund, PIF. They're putting money all over America. And here was the thing, Rob. This is why I'm not when I look at Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy and all these guys that didn't get in, in LIV, even though they offered them, you said it, $800 million for Tiger Woods. I don't look at them as hypocrites. I look at them, they got duped. They got duped.
That's a good word, Chris.
I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe they meant well. All these, not all, but many of these Americans, particularly the players who were against it, I think they meant well, but they were misinformed. Because here's the deal, folks. Listen and listen closely. These are just some of the United States companies that are doing business in Saudi Arabia. Pfizer, Philip Morris, Price Waterhouse, Ford Motor Company, Amoco, Exxon, Bank of America, a Red Wing Shoe Company, Samsonite, Shell, Texaco, JP Morgan. I bank at JP Morgan Chase, Chase Manhattan Bank. I mean, I could go on and on. Coca-Cola, Pepsi. And here's more. The Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, Saudi Arabia, is invested. They now hold shares, Rob, in these companies. Amazon, Google, Visa, Microsoft, Disney. We worked for Disney, right? ESPN, Nintendo, Uber, PayPal, Zoom, BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager. And here's my thing. If all of these United States companies can work with Saudi Arabia, you mean to tell me one individual golfer, he's supposed to be the one to take the high road and say, no, I can't do that. Please, you're supporting them and you don't even know it.
Chris.
When you buy something from Starbucks, you're supporting the Saudi investments. They are all over America, and that was my issue. The hypocrisy of these wealthy private companies and corporations who run our country to have the audacity to act like Tiger or Rory or some other golfer would have been just the most immoral person in the world because they were doing it too. And that goes for all these media members, again, who got on their high horse, Rob. They were duped too. You didn't do your homework. You didn't know who else was in bed with the Saudi Arabians. So
100%, Chris. Spot on. And there were people. Oh, I would never do that. Remember, people were pushing back on Charles Barkley when they went on the interview, Chris, with the LIV Golf Tour. Oh, Charles, how could you do that? I would never take money from them. Really? Oh, really? Now it's okay, Chris. And all along, we're in bed with the Saudis. Stop it. Chris just named 1 million companies. Stop.
And that wasn't even a half of it.
No, and they got a ton of money, and you can say whatever you want. As there's no reason that they should have put this phony patriotism, Chris, in the way of these other golfers, telling them that they should feel bad for taking that money, and how dare they take that money and leave the PGA, because look what happened on 9/11. That was what the overwhelming, and they were supposed to, the golfers were going to look like, oh, look at them. They stood up to the Saudis, and they didn't want to take their blood money. And look, and then before you know it, the PGA decided that they would cash out and screw the golfers. They're not going to get the deal. Doesn't include those guys getting money, Chris, that they lost out with the Saudis.
Well, Rob, and here's the deal. Let me throw this out there quickly, too. I don't want to forget this. Guess who's the largest customer for U.S.-made military equipment? Saudi Arabia.
Hello.
So the government and all these private corporations are in bed with them, and they expect an individual not to do the same. Please, Rob, here's what it is, and you alluded to it. When Tiger and Rory and Phil Mickelson, shout out to Phil Mickelson for seeing through the foolishness, and some of these other guys too. When they were being offered this money, guess who wasn't being offered it? The PGA, right? The PGA Tour, maybe they were offered it, and the PGA Tour said, nah, we don't need you. But now, Rob, like you said, those individual golfers aren't getting it, the ones who turned it down, but the PGA is. Now Jay Monahan gets his cut.
Right. They're all getting
so he
their
don't
cuts
care
now.
if you call him a hypocrite because he's going to be a wealthy hypocrite.
It is one of the biggest reversals, Chris. And we said it from, this is a second guess.
We did, right.
We said in the beginning, same thing you just brought up, Phil Mickelson. They all chastised him and criticized him and made him out like he was un-American, that he would take part in the LIV Golf Tour. We're like, what? Wait a minute. You're going to work here in the PGA and make $1, but they're offering you $100. Really?
Right.
I'm going to work for the $1?
Right. Shame on all the people that shamed Phil Mickelson and any of the other, Greg Norman, who was, any of the other golfers who went to LIV. Shame on. Now, again, they may have meant well, but before you go off on somebody like that, you need to be a little more informed. LIV, PGA Tour, they merged. Your thoughts?
All right, Chris, let's kick it off with Jim in Florida. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Jim?
How you doing, guys? I just want to thank you first for all the content. Because
thank you.
It gets me through my week, and I really appreciate it. When it comes to the golf, I think this is all about the money. PGA figured out they couldn't survive once LIV opened. They needed those golfers back. And for them to combine it together, unfortunately, some guys are going to get egg on their face, but that shit happens. Have a great evening. Thank you.
No, that's a good call. It's definitely about the money. And Rob, look, Saudi Arabia, they got money to burn from all that oil, and that's what they're doing. It wasn't reported, right? How much PGA did?
No,
the money's got to be astronomical. You offered one golfer $800 million,
right? That was the deal for Tiger to come to join LIV, $800 million. So they got buku money, no doubt about it. It's Kevin in Culver City. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Kev?
What's up, fellas?
How are you?
What's up?
Good. Hey, the biggest loser in this, I think, is Tiger Woods. I mean, he turned down $1 billion, and then they ended up merging anyway. So, he could have took all that money home. He's at the end of his career. A payday's a payday. It's like LeBron getting offered a max contract at the end of his career, a full max. You got to take that money. They merged anyway. So, Tiger's a big loser. I think Rory's a big loser. He could have got a really big bag. And I think the smart guys are the Brooks Koepkas of the world who got paid, and the Dustin Johnsons who took the money. And your boy, shout to your boy, I think Fred Varner, he came out and he said, hey, it's all about the money. It's all about the money anyway. Don't sugarcoat it. He was right.
And here's an example, just to put in perspective.
Hang on there,
that
Kevin.
$800 million from Tiger. Yeah, LeBron's made about $400 million in his entire NBA.
And he could look at that, Chris. And he could have made $800. Kev, what do you make of, real quick, from you? Just the way that they wrapped around the whole anti-LIV was about patriotism, and you know what I mean. They used that as reasons why the golfers shouldn't embrace the LIV Golf, and then they do it themselves. What do you make of that?
Oh, I think it was the PGA suits trying to get behind that and use that as an excuse to keep other guys on their tour and they have a guilty trip about guys going over. And it just shows they weren't thinking about their players at the end of the day. Some of those guys at the end of the tour who could have got big paydays, who they guilt-tripped into staying over there. And shouts to Cameron Smith for taking his money too. Guys who kind of, wised up and said, no, we're not buying that. And they ended up being hypocrites anyway. It was all a ploy to try to keep the power play all the other players on the tour, like the John Rahms of the world. So you look at John Rahm, he could have made a huge bag.
No doubt, Kevin. Thank you for your insight. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Rome?
You not believe how ticked off I am about this, man. Let me tell you something. Remember that blowback the NBA got about dealing with China? Well, what are those people going to say now? What are they going to say now? Oh, Saudi Arabia's human rights is better than China's? I don't think so.
And Jerome, it's the same thing. U.S. companies work with China, too.
Yep.
That's why with LeBron, it was like, he didn't answer that. He didn't talk necessarily that well about the situation over there, but he's one individual.
Right.
If we got all these companies working with China, don't jump on LeBron James because, he was, with Nike and all that over there. So
and the same thing with these golfers, to put a guilt trip on them and to use 9/11, Chris, as your guilt trip, Jerome. That's the bad part, is that they use 9/11 to make the golfers feel bad about it.
Right.
And as a veteran, that really hits hard with me, okay?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were sincere, but sincerely misinformed. But maybe they did just use it, Rob. You know,
that's what it feels like. And thanks for the call, Jerome. And the Saudi group, Chris, that you talked about, PIF,
yep.
manages $650 billion in assets.
Oh yeah, no, it's
$650 billion with a B. Do you hear me? That's the legal money, Chris, on the books that we know about.
Right. All right, we'll bring in our man Ephraim Salam to talk about this and more with him. But first, Monsi Bolaños with the update. Monsi.
Guys, hello.
Monsi, you can't do updates for LIV, okay?
Oh, this whole thing is so messy.
It is.
I thought LIV Golf wasn't doing well because I thought CW was no longer airing their tournaments and they were doing reruns of shows. So I don't understand how PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan was like, okay, let's be friends. Hypocrite. I wonder how much money he's getting out of this.
Right.
No, it's money.
But himself,
they needed each other.
I just would have it's so frustrating, but it is messy. Very messy. There's a report that the players called him a hypocrite a couple of hours ago and that they are not happy because apparently he didn't tell them. They all found out when we found out on social media.
Tiger Woods, we don't have to shed a tear. He's got enough money.
Plenty of money.
Right. But still, how do you think he feels?
If I was a player, I would have the red ass, as they say,
right?
Chris, because for you to broker that deal, and we're not even involved.
We're not a part of it.
We don't even know anything that's going on.
We're not even getting any type of cut. I mean, beyond what the benefits of the tour and all that.
No, ridiculous. Not just Tiger Woods, but Rory McIlroy, who kept defending the PGA Tour and all of that. He hasn't said anything. Well, Phil Mickelson tweeted earlier today, "Awesome day today." Of course, he said that. Of course.
Good for Phil though, because they chastised him.
Phil stood on what he wanted to do.
Yep.
Yeah, no, messy. Absolutely messy.